Okay, there was an interesting conversation between one Tucker Carlson and Glenn Greenwald, and we got a couple of conversations and videos here, especially in regards towards censorship. And I think both you and I know all too well about censorship. I mean, on your Instagram profile, you're being censored. On our YouTube platform, we have been shadow banned and suppressed here and there, dealing with all sorts of fun stuff in between because, it's not like this is my livelihood, but censorship is an issue. And what are your thoughts of the 4 years under the Biden-Harris administration with the censorship, the jackboot of the censorship?
Oh my gosh. As I've said, censorship and Orwell comes from the left. It's alarming to me, the level of not even just censorship and algorithms and shadow banning, but the way the rhetoric in the media has changed with using words like misinformation and disinformation and sort of normalizing that people can't say things that go against the counter narrative. And as we all experienced when COVID hit, that ramped up even before the Biden administration. I felt it was ramping up. I think what's the most scary is the rhetoric that's being shared now and giving people the ability to have fact checkers label stuff or misinformation or disinformation. That's what's the most scary and alarming to me.
Exactly, man. And I for one would say, listen, folks, keep your heads on a swivel. But I want to pull up this article here because it's not only censorship that they talked about. They talked about a few other issues, but I want to first bring up the censorship part because that hits a little close to home for me because it's something that me and Daniel know all too well. I wish we didn't, but there we go. Nonetheless, I can't we're still here, and that's because of our audience. And for that, we love you for it. So governments in the West are obsessed with hiding information from their own populations, going so far as to criminalizing the platforming of media such as RT, journalist Glenn Greenwald has said. In an interview with Tucker Carlson posted on Thursday, Greenwald pointed out that the thought of the Cold War, the New York Times would publish speeches by Nikita Khrushchev, Leonid Brezhnev, and other Soviet leaders, contrasting it with the current situation. Now it's practically criminalized, Greenwald told Carlson. When the Russian-Ukraine conflict escalated in February 2022, one of the very first steps the EU took legislatively was to ban the platforming to criminalizing the platforming of Russian media, like RT and Sputnik. That's why RT America is no longer around, folks. They made it a crime, and YouTube immediately pulled it off because they didn't want their citizens hearing any information from the Russian perspective. I mean, you can hate Russia. You can think Russia's evil. You can think whatever you want about Russia. But why wouldn't you want to hear from the other side, Greenwald added, which is why I think, I'm very proud of my show and my audience. We have a very diverse audience. We have people who are Democrat or conservative. We have libertarians. We have Greens. We have people of different generations and different perspectives and points of view. You got to hear from the other side. I mean, that's not only that's show running 101. You're going to have a diverse audience, okay? And if you're a successful podcaster or commentator, that's what you should strive for, okay? I get that. Yes, I have my biases, but it is my job, and Nick, it's your job to talk to different people because you've had a treasure trove of guests on your show. I want to get your comments on that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I actually make it part of my mission of my podcast to talk to anyone about anything that I find interesting, or I'll debate with people. I've had people when I talk about politics, I've had people on the left, I've had people on the right, and we've had very constructive conversations. We've agreed, we've disagreed, we've agreed to disagree. But you can find commonalities with people there. And I think that's the same when you talk about world leaders. And one thing that always sort of struck me as bizarre is people not wanting our leaders to talk to leaders of other country for whatever that is. Or, I had people in my life that were having meltdowns over Tucker Carlson interviewing Putin, or Donald Trump meeting with Kim Jong-un. And I'm empathetic and open to a conversation as to why that's a bad thing, but I never get anything more than you're platforming someone who's lying. It's like, okay, prove them wrong. Do your job as a media and prove that these things are wrong. And that's what, again, when it comes to censorship, when it comes to meeting with world leaders, like, people need to know that perspective, even if it's batshit oh, sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
That's
Crazy.
fine. You could drop a swear word here and there, just a little bit. But otherwise, this is your last time on the show, buddy.
Like, let's let Putin spew his crazy out to all of us so that we know that the media is telling the truth.
Exactly. And look, when Tucker Carlson did interview Putin, I mean, that's his job. But other people in corporate media,
journalist.
other people in corporate media have done so too. But yet, even when Tucker Carlson was deplatformed off of Fox News, you had AOC celebrating. And look, a lot of this whole idea of censorship goes with this war in Ukraine that we covered earlier. And I want to play this one video here that's talking about the conflict that Glenn Green, because we got a couple of videos to play. I encourage everyone to check out the full interview in its full entirety on Tucker Carlson's social media platform on X. But here's just one video. I also want to pull up this statement here from one of my viewers. Dan, thank you so much. Liberals refuse to listen to a single word spoken by Carlson because the good guys told them that Tucker is one of the bad guys. They aren't curious enough to all or any questions. So yeah, there you go. I mean,
it's
hey,
still listen.
Go ahead.
Listen, even if he's the bad guy to you, listen to him and see if anything resonates or if it confirms in your own critical thinking that he's the bad guy. Don't let people tell you something. Don't take anything at face value.
And look, I can have my disagreements with Tucker Carlson, but he has done his job to interview Putin. All right. And I told people, well, eventually they're going to forget about it. Like, but that's his job. And then you have people who are so upset and say, well, this shouldn't be posted on social media. Well, no, it is a job to the American people to know, okay, what does a global leader think of the United States? What do they think of our political situation? What do they think about the geopolitical situation?
Their foreign policy approach.
Exactly. And I want to know. And you know, I'm just going to say this, even though we are at the risk of World War III, which I hope doesn't happen, you know, I could say with confidence, you know, there's probably somebody like me in Russia. There's probably somebody like me in China, you know, their own hopes and dreams, fears, wants, all that. All right, all of us, we're all people. We all want to live our lives as best as we can in a world that is understandably out of our control. But we need to really start talking about the censorship and how this war and this Russiagate propaganda has really diminished people's ability to think critically. Case in point, added in there with Trump derangement syndrome. I got another video pulling up here, but do you want to add in anything here real quick, Nick?
No, I think you said it well.
Okay, let's go ahead and pull up this one here. Let's play this.
I think we're watching the most evil thing I've ever seen in my lifetime, which is the lame duck administration leaving the next administration with the world war, with the nuclear conflict. It seems like the most reckless thing that's ever happened in my life.
We actually played that. Sorry about that. Wrong video. I just realized I had the same video twice. Here's another one about surveillance, anti-surveillance to approving the FISA renewal. Say it with me, folks. What could go wrong? Apologies for pulling up that same video. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and let me just hit stop sharing here for a second and pull it up here. We have one little technical delay. Nothing's perfect all the time. I find this really interesting because again, you wouldn't expect people like that to show up on Glenn Greenwald's show. Nick, real quick.
No, I actually remember this. He did clip it because I only watch clips of his shows, but I do actually remember this conversation now that he's bringing it up.
Yeah,
and I also remember thinking, yeah, nothing's going to happen. But
no, of course, nothing's going to happen. There is no war in Bossing Say. There is no fifth chaos god.
Do it again.
Where do you think they showed the presidents like, hey, listen, if you get out of pocket, remember what happened to JFK? This is going to happen to you.
Isn't that a Jimmy Dore's joke? Is everybody's a progressive until they get shown that angle of the JFK assassination that no one else has seen, and then all of a sudden they change their policy.
Yes, exactly. It's a Tyrannosaurus Rex holding an elite sniper weapon somewhere in the far distance with its UFO just parked a few feet away, and then it flies off into the background. Like, yeah, we'll get the T-Rex who lives in the UFO.
I think in this case, while he was being shown all of these classified documents and stuff, similar to how CNN's playing in the airport, they probably had that JFK video playing in the background.
Oh yeah, God. Oh, jeez. Again. Let's. Well, there are a few more seconds in this video segment, so let's play a little bit more of it. Changed like a pod person. Did you? Hey, here's a little known Wikipedia fact. Did you know Mitch McConnell once stood against money in politics? Did you know Nancy Pelosi used to be for Medicare for all? I bet you
I
didn't know that.
I knew that about Nancy. I did not know that about Mitch McConnell.
Yes, Turtle Boy Mitch. Again, I wouldn't say he was all, but he has brought it up here and there. When he was finally confronted with it, oh my goodness, it looked like he wanted to hide in his shell. But before anyone says, "Oh, well, gee, Harlan's media is praising Tucker Carlson too much," hang on, we got another video here. Okay, this is his love for Israel. You know, you never heard of the country here, folks.
From my perspective as an American, I think you can have any opinion you want on Israel. I'm not actually that interested. I personally like Israel, whatever.
The pro-Israel sector of the American right has proven itself to be such utter and complete frauds about virtually every value they've spent the last decade pretending to champion and believe in. And it's been sickening to watch.
The reason it's scary is, again, has nothing to do with Israel at all, about which I have like less emotion than most Americans, apparently. I just don't care that much either way.
The stories we
Well,
did.
what I meant was I feel emotional. Like I just have like gut level affection for, because I've had such a nice time there, and I like so many.
Oh boy, had a great time hanging out there. Okay, hey, you know, to each their own. To each their own. Fine. Okay, not really such a hot take to take there, buddy.
Israelis personally and know a lot, and I just like there's nothing more wonderful than having dinner in Jerusalem on a summer night. It's just so I have a lot of affection. I guess that's what I'm saying. So I'm not sort of animated by, you know, anything really. And I say that as someone who spent, I don't know, a couple of decades just sort of avoiding the topic, just because I mean almost all my friends love Israel. I have no problem with that at all. Great, love Israel. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all.
Body language 101. I think, Nick, you kind of notice too, like when you have your arms folded like this, you're protecting yourself.
Well, and you're moving. Yeah, he's moving
Yeah,
too.
he's moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like I don't want to get in too much trouble here. No trouble here.
I, as I've said 3 times, and I mean it, I just have great affection for the country and the people who live there. I'm like hardly
No eye contact.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I get, I really try not to think about it. I think I don't want to become angry at all. And I think that, just being as honest as I can be, I do think, and I have noticed this, you know, if you start focusing on the Israel question, you know, people get really angry about this stuff, really angry, and it takes over their brains. And I just don't want that. And again, even for people like me who, you know, again, I don't have any problem with Israel. I don't have any problem with people who love Israel. People who think Israel's great. Great. I love Israel as a place to visit, and I'm not against it.
Tell me how many times you love it. Tell me how many times you love it. By the way, homework assignment for one of my viewers, okay? Because I wasn't going to do it, but maybe some of you can. Count how many times Tucker Carlson said "I love you" in that part of the segment. Before we end anything else, what do you think about his love for Israel, Nick?
I think you shouldn't play a drinking game to it.
You know, I actually, a little bit off topic, just to make things a little bit lighter here. I actually had my stepfather buy me a nice little bottle of Japanese whiskey that's like 20 years old.
I know you love that stuff.
I know, but it's actually from Japan, and I'm saving it for a special occasion, for a big win. That's what I'm saving it for, and it's gonna be magnifique. So maybe I'll play that drinking game with that bottle of whiskey once things go down. If I don't do a morning show, that means I'm on. That means like good old Kit Kat's got a hangover. But we do have one more thing here, another article here from RT, just to trigger the vote blue no matter who crowd, because RT's still around. RIP RT America. Yeah, had some good programs. The U.S. has become a fascist state under President Joe Biden. Former Fox News host Tucker Carlson has claimed, I would say we're corporatists, but we're tiptoeing closer and closer to it. But whatever, we're not there yet. We haven't crossed that Rubicon just yet. An interview with American journalist Glenn Greenwald, which was published on his YouTube channel on Wednesday. Carlson stated the Washington's decision to allow Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied ATACMS missiles to strike targets deep inside Russia is the most evil thing I've ever seen in my lifetime, and accused the outgoing government, which he described as a lame duck administration, of trying to leave the next administration with a world war. In fact, it is our government that is the fascist state, not Russia, Carlson said. The journalist argued that Biden's reported decision to lift restrictions for Ukraine, a proxy state of the U.S., to strike Russian territory using Western long-range missiles could provoke a nuclear war. Yeah, World War III. I really don't want that on my bingo card. Carlson also suggested the reckless moves by Washington, which have led to casualties among Russia's civilian population, could leave Russian President Putin, sorry for that, with no choice but to launch a serious response against Ukraine or some of NATO countries or possibly the United States. Nick, we saw the video. We saw a couple videos on censorship, suppression, fascism, the jackboot of more censorship, and of course, the love of Israel. How do we end this segment? What's your final note? Yes.
The love of Israel.
Yes, the love of Israel. Yes, of course, the love of it. Your thoughts, my friend?
Censorship is real. It's everywhere. Reset your algorithms where you can. If you're getting information from someone who's reporting the news or telling you how to think about someone or what's misinformation, what's disinformation, check yourself, review the opposite side, and do what you can to inform yourself, because we are, quote Jimmy Dore again, the most propagandized people in the world, and we don't even know it. So
Agreed.
we should talk to other world leaders. We should be having open dialogue about war, about our military, about the money that funds that, about our about FISA, about our security state. We should be having conversations about this because we're a country that is founded on its people directing its lawmakers, not its lawmakers directing its people.
Agreed 100%. So look, I for one follow and support the work that Glenn Greenwald has done, and yes, even Tucker Carlson. I can like and follow two different people at the same time. I'm glad they had this great conversation. The full interview is available on Tucker Carlson's X account as well, and I encourage everyone to check it out. As I say to my audience, see things through different perspectives and points of view. You don't have to agree with the person, but just try and hear what they're saying. But it does really say a lot, especially hearing it from two different people of two different political ideologies, dare I say it, who are in a complete agreement. And I have to say, yes, it is very suspicious, frightening that the outgoing Biden-Harris administration is leaving World War III on the table for Donald Trump. That's not what you call a peaceful transfer of power. And for some reason, I feel like the jackboot of censorship will still be marching. I want to be wrong about that. I desperately want to be wrong about that.
I want you to be wrong about that.
Do you want me to be wrong about this? Type 1 for yes, Kit. I want to be wrong. Type 2. No, it's time for you to suffer. I hope there's ones in the chat. See, I switched things up.
SWAT team took your neighbor today. Watched them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. Is it too late for us to ever change? We are collecting the dust of better days. They're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they've taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once we're collecting the dust of better days, and they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to feel safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Feds arrived and had you detained. Said you'd made some posts they want changed. Tased you till you felt like you'd forgotten your name, or life before they had you contained. Oh, life before they had you contained. SWAT team took your neighbor today.